Skune, you excited for what's going to happen next? Okay.
After finally becoming a demon slayer, Tanjiro arrives into a new town in order to complete his mission. His mission is to discover the cause of the disappearance of young girls, of which may be a demon. He travels with his sister within the box on his back, as well as a sword. Each demon slayer, including himself, is a bearer of a Nichiren sword. A Nichiren sword is unique in that it changes color based on who is holding it. To make things even more unique, the color of Tanjiro's sword is black. The smith that made Tanny's sword expected for it to bear a red blade, based on the reddish hue to her guy's eyes and hair, and also based on his family's history with fire. However, it instead bared black. Apparently, a black blade is unique in that it is rarely seen. Because of this, there's a stigma that unsuccessful swordsmen bear black blades. I don't know what the Demon Slayer Corps are thinking, because I know that a black lightsaber is fucking badass, so a black Nichiren sword is probably badass too. So when it comes to our guy's first mission, I will admit that the actual confrontation and battle with the demon present kinda just feels okay. I don't think what's really important here is the demon per se. What I really think is important here is the fleshing out of Tanjiro and his young sister Nezuko. Nezuko is the deuteragonist or secondary protagonist of the series. At the beginning of the series she was human, but she was then transformed to a demon. It is at this first mission that we get to see what involvement Nezuko will have for the series. Our gal is not just going to be in the box of her brother's back the whole time, she's going to actually aid her brother in fighting against demons and protecting humans. Interestingly, a mind trick is put onto her to make her think that all humans are her family, and of course he wants to protect them. Working together, Tanjiro and her sister beat the demon, stopping more young girls from being killed. Our heroes then set onto another mission, and guess what? The brilliant spelling power of Tanjiro's comes into play. Tanjiro catches the whiff of something just like what was lingering around the corpses of his dead family members, and guess what just happens to be there? Well, no one other than Muzan. Alright, so is it just me, or is it maybe just a little too early for our main hero to be meeting the main bad guy that he's been set on looking for? Is it an incredible coincidence? Yeah, I think so, but let's look at it another way. I'm only basing this on what the author wrote in Demon Slayer, so this may be wrong to say of their other works, but in this story, things just happen right after another. There really isn't any filler per se in between the beats, but when there is, it's because our heroes need to recover in between fights. But even those things don't feel like filler. Like, yeah, you're injured from a fight. Of course you need to spend some time recovering. And the author has a lot of interesting things going on during those times too. So this story is already a finely cut steak, and I like that about it. It's refreshing to have this constant momentum. If there were a ton of filler just put in, I don't think that the series would be as enjoyable to read as it is. And maybe the author isn't good at putting in filler, so that's probably why they decided to forgo it altogether. So yeah, after just one mission, Tanjiro meets the bad guy that he was set on spending the rest of his life on searching for. There's not a lot of filler here, and I like that. Now, if you don't like that aspect and you thought there should have been some more, maybe they changed it up in the anime, but on behalf of the manga of Demon Slayer, sorry about that. Even though I had nothing to do with it. Anyway, Tenny confronts the demon responsible for his family's suffering, but he's not alone. He's with his wife and his daughter. What's interesting about this is that his wife and daughter are human, while Muzan is clearly a demon. He is using his wife and daughter as cover in order to blend into society. Before he can even make a move, Muzan turns an innocent bystander into a demon in order to cause a distraction, and he makes his escape along with his unknowing wife and daughter. Now, when I was first reading this, my mind was just bubbling up with a ton of ideas, like how long has Muzan been pretending to be a human with a wife and child? Is Muzan really the same bad guy as I thought he was? Is there more going on here that I just don't know? Perhaps is there a Dracula plus Lisa equals Alucard situation going on here? What's going on? For those that don't know what I'm talking about, in Castlevania, Dracula falls in love with a woman named Lisa. Although he was a vampire and she was a human, they marry, and from their union came forth their son, which they named Alucard. Although it was within his power, Dracula decided not to turn his wife into a vampire. So when it came to the birth of their child was neither wholly human nor wholly vampire. Alucard was born a Dhampir, half human and half vampire. Due to my mind recalling the history of Castlevania, I started relating that this may be true for Muzan. Like, perhaps he was once the evil demon that the Demon Slayer Corps remembered him as, but through the ages, he has now met a human woman who he has fallen in love with. And then from that love, they brought forward a child that he cares for, which, as far as Tanjiro can tell, is only human. This would have made our villain and desire to kill him complicated, as perhaps he no longer wanted to be the evil being that he once was, and instead wanted to live a much normal life, or at least as much normal life as he can muster with his wife and child. And then that would further complicate things, as perhaps Muzan wasn't the demon responsible for killing Tanjiro's family. Maybe what his master told Tanjiro isn't true. Maybe there does exist other demons out there that can turn people into humans, and what his master told him is outdated information. Perhaps Muzan hasn't been an active bad guy for a long time, but despite that, him still being alive still allows all of the other demons to exist. For as long as he is still alive, all of the other demons that aren't dead are allowed to remain in the world as well. But if he were to die, then all of those demons in the world would perish. And what would that mean about his daughter? She smells like a human to Tanjiro, but maybe that's not what she really is. Maybe his nose sniffer is a little bit off. Maybe she's half demon, but she just gives off the human sense because she's not actively in demon mode. Maybe she is wholly human, but due to being born to Muzan, if Muzan were to die, that might cause the death of her as well as all the other demons. Is the possibility of killing his innocent daughter with the death of her father right? What if it turns out that she is a demon or part demon, but Muzan's death kills all other demons in the world except for her? Further, would his death be right if he has decided to reform his ways and lead a better life despite the horrendous crimes he has committed and despite the continuation of other demons to exist in the world? Just from this one instance in the series of Muzan walking around with his wife and child, there are a ton of possibilities. Like, there is so much that could be done with this. So when I was reading this, I just got really freaking excited because I was just thinking like, man, where are we going to go from here? So what happened? What direction did we go? Well, Muzan tells him that he has to go take care of some business, and then we never see them again. What? Yeah, so apparently what happened is that Muzan killed this woman's husband, got close to her romantically, and is now just basically her night boyfriend for cover. None of that sounds as awesome as the ideas that I put forward, but that's what we got. Before Muzan leaves though, Tanjiro's threats and earrings remind Muzan of a man long ago. So who is this guy from Muzan's past? Well, of course we're going to learn later on in the series, but since I've already went on my rants speculating about what could have happened with all these cool possibilities, only to basically be let down, why don't we just keep going forward with that? Let's actually talk about Muzan's past. Let's get right to it. So where does Muzan's story begin? Muzan's story begins in his mother's womb. Yeah, so while yet to be born, Muzan's heart gave out repeatedly and he was believed to be stillborn upon arrival. However, despite the appearance of being dead, he gasped for air and lived. Death still firmly held its grip onto him though. A doctor determined that Muzan would not live past the age of 20 years old due to a disease, and through their efforts, the doctor attempted to cure Muzan through an experimental medicine composed of blue spider lily. While being treated, Muzan's condition worsened. Believing that death was approaching, Muzan then killed the doctor attempting to cure him out of anger. This death of his doctor would prove to be the biggest mistake of Muzan's life. Muzan then realized that he gained an enormous amount of strength and he was no longer on death's door. However, he also could no longer walk among mankind in the sun. He also gained an affinity for wanting to consume the flesh of humans and drink their blood. He in fact became a demon, the first demon. Muzan then realized that the treatment set out by his doctor actually wasn't completed. Muzan had actually killed his doctor before he had completed the blue spider lily treatment. If the blue spider lily treatment had continued, then perhaps he would have gained even more abilities than he already has. Perhaps he would not have gained the deathly allergy to the sun, whilst keeping the immortality that he now finds himself to have. Wanting to gain even more power, Muzan then went on a mission in search for the blue spider lily. He turned many humans into his servile demons in order to aid in his search. Finding the blue spider lily is all that Muzan really wants in this world. And now, let's focus on the mystery man. The man that Tanjiro reminds Muzan of. The man that appears to drive the Demon King into fear. Who is he? The mystery man's name is Yorichi, and he once was a legendary demon slayer. Yorichi was born the younger twin brother. His older brother's name was Michikatsu. Something unique about Yorichi was that he was born with a flame birthmark upon his head, something that his older brother was not born with. Due to this birthmark, Yorichi was to be put to death by the order of his father, but his life was saved by the request of his mother. Despite being twin brothers, they were not treated the same. They each had a different upbringing. Michikatsu was to become head of the household someday, and Yorichi was to become a priest with the plan of him leaving his home at age 10. Growing up, something was noticeably strange to Michikatsu about his brother. His brother didn't speak until age 7, he rarely smiled, and he was often quiet. When Michikatsu was training for his dream to become a samurai, it was then that he first heard his brother speak. He had believed that his brother was deaf, but he realized that he was mistaken. It turned out that what Michikatsu had believed about Yorichi and what everyone else had believed about Yorichi was wrong. Yorichi wasn't a deaf and slow child, he was actually a genius possessing unique and strange abilities. One of such abilities was the ability to see inside the bodies of living creatures. He also had physical abilities such as great strength, instinct, and that he was able to defeat his brother's swordmaster when Michikatsu could not even get a single blow. When his father had realized how truly special Yorichi was, the pre-planned past before them changed. Yorichi was now chosen as the brother that would leave the household one day, and Michikatsu was now demoted to the brother that would be sent to the temple to become a priest. Realizing this, after the death of his mother, Yorichi decided to leave his home. He then met a young girl whose entire family had died, and he decided to spend the next 10 years together with her. They married and expected a child, but while Yorichi was away, his wife and unborn child were murdered by a demon. He mourned the death of his family for 10 days, until a demon slayer appeared. The slayer encouraged Yorichi to mourn the death of his family appropriately, and from here Yorichi chose to become a demon slayer in order to eradicate all of demonkind. Yorichi would then cross paths again with his brother while pursuing a demon. The demon killed all of his brother's subordinates, but Michikatsu survived. Michikatsu then decided to become a demon slayer as well, and he abandoned both his wife and children. Yorichi then attempted to teach a type of breathing he called sun breathing, a breathing technique he had developed that increased strength and stamina to his fellow demon slayers, but this failed. He learned that sun breathing was too difficult for others to learn, and he instead modified it for each user. For this came all the other types of breathing, derivatives of the original. Soon after, marks similar to the one that he had on his forehead developed, and even Michikatsu developed one as well. It was during this golden era of demon slayers that Yorichi would then come into contact with the greatest demon of them all, Muzan. Using his sun breathing, Yorichi was able to easily defeat the cocky Muzan, but due to his hesitation, he escaped. Yorichi could have easily put an end to the demon from which all demons sprung forth, but due to his mistake, the demon escaped and never again did their paths meet. So that's who Muzan is, and that's who the mystery man is that Muzan is afraid of. Both have very interesting backstories with juicy details that some of which I'm still withholding right now. Now, clearly, a lot of my speculations and thoughts were wrong, but when it comes to the actual truth of who Muzan is with his upbringing, when it comes to the man he's afraid of who almost ended his immortality under the black sky, and when it comes to what he's been doing for thousands of years, I find it all very fascinating. Anyway, back to the story. Muzan sees a resemblance of Tanjiro with his old foe Yorichi. What does this mean? Well, it's a mystery for now. Due to Muzan's distraction, a demon is now rampant and only our Tanny boy is nearby to stop him. Except, I'm wrong, there's actually some popos nearby, but they seem to be in the dark in the demons actually exist concept. That's when another demon makes a distraction, except this demon's good. Well, she's good-ish. A long time ago, a young woman named Tamio fell ill, and Muzan offered his quote-unquote cure to heal her. This cure was of course to turn her into a demon. As a demon, she killed many humans, including her own husband and children. She didn't take these deaths too well, so she decided to try to be a good demon instead, like what she's trying to do right now for Tanjiro. In addition to trying to lead a better life through her actions, she has also made several big leaps in order to further her resolve. She altered her body somehow, removing the need to eat humans, but more importantly, she removes what is known as the Kibutsuji's curse. This curse is put onto every demon that is created by Muzan. It in fact makes every demon Muzan's slave. Any demon that says his name are immediately self-destructed. It is the ultimate cover for Muzan, and it helps him conceal himself from his enemies. Tamayo doesn't have this curse, and neither does the demon that she created have it either. Yeah, you heard me right. Tamayo actually turned a human into a demon. What was once believed to be a power solely held by Muzan has proved not to be true. However, it appears that this is the only case that Tamayo was able to produce. So what does this mean? Is this a super special fluke, or perhaps is this a sign of something else? Well, my thoughts are that in regards to Muzan, as part of his own hierarchy, with everybody else being Muzan dependent below him, the reason why that he's the only one that can make more demons is because he's the head of the food chain. He's the head of his family. Everybody else below him, who, if they say his name, they die, there might be a special rule that he's able to implement because, again, he's the head of the hierarchy. And perhaps the reproduction is only limited to the head of the hierarchy, and everybody else below him who don't have a significant amount of deviation to branch off to make their own family trees, they can't reproduce. So if you are able to branch off, either through intentional or unintentional means, to deviate from the bloodline to create your own, you become the new head of that family tree. You can now speak Muzan's name because you're not under his hierarchical rules anymore. And perhaps, because you're now the head of your new family tree, the new bloodline, you can make your own demons, who are now subservient to you under your own rules. But perhaps that's just all bullshit. Those are just my thoughts. Tamayo claims that over 200 years, Yushiro is the only demon she was able to create, but that's not an adequate measure to compare to Muzan. At this point in the story, Muzan is very knowledgeable about what happens when he gives human his blood, but there's no evidence that he innately knew this once he became a demon. The first demons that he created were more likely unintended, and it was probably over many years of experimentation that he came to realize the extent of his abilities. When it comes to the ability to make demons, the original ones that departed from him may not have even had the Kibutsuji curse. It may have only been formed later on, after the demons he created began to betray him, and after he learned that he had the power to forbid them from saying his name. Due to Tamayo wanting to leave a better life, it is unlikely that over the 200 years that he's performed even the smallest fraction of experimentation in the creation of demons that Muzan has performed over centuries. And of course, Muzan wouldn't explain the complexities of the process anyway, even if Tamayo asked. This is all to say that, hypothetically, Tamayo could have created a rival race of demons to combat against Muzan's. It could have been done, but Tamayo just doesn't have any aspirations for wanting to do so. Tamayo only wants to live a peaceful life, and she uses her blood in order to comfort those who have incurable diseases. She in fact is providing supernatural demonic hospice care. Tanjiro comes to trust her, and through their newfound trust, Tani is able to now start figuring out what he can do to cure his sister. Right now, there isn't a cure, but with a sample of Nezuko's blood and a large sample of Muzan's blood, maybe the key to curing Nezuko can be identified. But then, some of Muzan's baddies show up, and they want to fight. So when it comes to these demons, this guy throws balls that are deadly like Walker from Final Fantasy X, and this guy with the eyes on their hands manipulates gravity. They aren't anything special. Tanny cuts off one of the guy's heads, and Tamayo makes the ball thrower say Muzan's name, thus self-destructing. The two of them part ways, but trust me, they'll see each other again. We're in a manga after all. And this then leads to the meeting of Tanjiro and the boy that is my favorite character of the series. Trust me, this guy's something special.